Greg or Corey, would you kind of speak about maybe mainly some of the bigger challenges of bringing sort of these real world assets on chain and kind of allowing people to sort of interact with this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the biggest challenges, we're not dealing with a trivial size or a trivial pool of assets at this point. Where even the initial seeding of the ecosystem was a little bit less than 1,000 assets, basically, and so we're already dealing with a data bottleneck things on chain. So we had to get pretty creative at how we're doing that, um, and that became a pretty interesting problem for us to solve initially, but prior to our launch. And then with that, there's a whole host of things that will be coming along the way as we continue to work on this. The first and foremost thing, as Greg and I have said, is putting the assets on chain and making some data available for consumption that will basically inject trust and transparency where it wasn't already there. Um, but moving aside from that, there's an entire other part of our organization which happens to deal with the movement of value or fiat money that's outside the crypto space and outside the smart contracts that needs to get put on chain for transparency's sake. And that'll be a really interesting problem to solve with Chainlink and with the things you guys are building out.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for the answer. Um, what do you think the overall value is? And again, whoever wants to answer this one, what do you think the overall value is, or what's the purpose of needing a decentralized Oracle solution in this case versus some kind of self-built centralized system?
I'd say the overall temper resistance aspect of this is extremely important. Of course, for right now, we could have initially seeded the ecosystem and did a minimum viable product launch with some kind of homegrown Oracle system, but we're in the long game with this, and we needed to get some trust in there early on when we first launched, or else there'd be like, we wouldn't be able to just run like a centralized system entirely, and it would be like, what's the point of running this on chain whatsoever? So on top of that, you make certain decisions as you're working on smart contracts that are largely immutable. Um, and with those decisions, what we wanted to do is lay the groundwork for us to plug in more modular points for Chainlink to get involved as we figure out some of the answers to these questions we have or these problems that we have. Like I mentioned before in the last question with the movement of fiat money, right now we have a module, for example, that basically returns empty data, but it's very pluggable in that once we kind of figure out what the integration point looks like and we have all of our things figured out with it between Chainlink and DMM, we could basically swap that piece out, and now Chainlink becomes one extra part of DMM's ecosystem, and it becomes that much more valuable to us. So this is also kind of like training wheels, the way I look at it. Training wheels are on the bike right now, but overall, we're going to be slowly taking them off, and the idea is that Chainlink will become the thing that's basically driving the bike then from there on forth.
Yeah, and I think if I could add too, Rory, I think what Corey says is totally spot on. But the other thing is we're looking, while we're doing a first smaller test of $10 million or so, we're really looking to build a multi-trillion-dollar market, right? So this is maybe where my old financial services hat, more traditional, comes into play, because there's tremendous scale possible here. But again, we must have the oracles from Chainlink. It's essential. And I think one of the things that DeFi Money Market and DMM is doing is, which is interesting in today's economy, is that yield now is zero pretty much globally, right? And there's about 17 actually trillion, and now it's much higher now, but in negative yielding debt. So then by using Chainlink and the infrastructure we built, you can actually get yield on assets, and you can come in and out of it very, very easily, and it pays like 6.25%. So while we're in the very initial, this is a very long journey, right? And so part of the reason to kind of build this with an expert like Chainlink is it's the beginning of a very long journey where we're really looking to build a large market. And to do so, you have to have the expertise in all these different areas. And Chainlink obviously is a great resource to build this with.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.